Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife after fame changed her? I never thought I'd be the kind of person posting something like this, but I honestly don't have anyone left to talk to. I met my wife when I was 15 years old. She was 17. Back then, life was incredibly hard for me. Within 6 months, I lost my mother. I never knew my father, so she was the only family I had. At the time, my future wife and I were just friends, but she was there for me through everything. She grieved with me, supported me, and helped me through the darkest period of my life. I think that's when I started falling in love with her. We started dating when I was 17, and 7 years later we got married. One of the things I loved most about her was how simple she was. She didn't care about expensive clothes, luxury brands, jewelry, or fancy cars. She shopped at thrift stores and loved finding deals. I remember trying to impress her with my sports car years ago. She looked at it and basically asked if it was just some regular economy car. That's who she was. She didn't care about status. She cared about people. In our marriage, she was always the successful one. She worked for large corporations and climbed the ladder quickly. I worked as a community first responder for a local hospital. The pay wasn't amazing, but I loved helping people. Then everything changed. About 2 years ago, she got offered a major executive position at a huge company. The salary was 4 times what she had been making before. The only catch was that we'd have to move to a different city. I was hesitant. Taking the move meant leaving my job, leaving my friends, and starting over. But she told me not to worry. She said her new salary would easily support us while I found something new. I wanted to support her dreams, so I agreed. At first, everything seemed great. Then slowly, the woman I knew started disappearing. The first thing I noticed was how obsessed she became with expensive things. This was the same woman who used to wear bargain store jackets and couldn't care less about designer labels. Suddenly, she was buying luxury handbags, expensive jewelry, and high-end clothing. Then came the new social circle. My wife was never particularly outgoing. Now she was constantly going out with coworkers. At first, I was happy for her. I thought she had finally found her place. But then she started coming home later and later. Soon, I'd barely see her for 10 minutes a day. Whenever I texted her, she was supposedly working. But somehow she always had time to post pictures online of shopping trips, parties, dinners, and drinks with coworkers. She stopped talking to me, stopped sharing things with me, stopped treating me like a husband. One day she left for work in one car and came home in a luxury SUV she had purchased without even mentioning it. When I asked why she spent so much money on a vehicle when she never cared about cars before, she told me it was her money and she could do whatever she wanted with it. Another time she disappeared overnight. No texts, no calls, nothing. The next afternoon, she casually informed me she'd gone on a business trip and forgot to tell me, forgot to tell her husband. But the moment that truly broke me happened when she invited me to lunch with her coworkers. I was excited. It was the first thing we'd done together in months. I thought maybe things were finally getting better. I got dressed up and drove to the restaurant. Years earlier, I had sold my sports car because I didn't need it anymore. I drove a simple, practical little car. Nothing fancy, but it got me where I needed to go. I parked in front of the restaurant and walked inside. The second my wife saw me, her face changed. She immediately stood up and pulled me outside. Then she started scolding me. She said I embarrassed her. I asked what I had done. She pointed at my car. Apparently, I should have parked it somewhere hidden so her coworkers wouldn't see it. She told me it didn't match her lifestyle. She actually warned me not to embarrass her like that again. I sat through the rest of that lunch completely stunned. That was the moment I realized something. The woman sitting across from me wasn't the woman I married. The person I loved was gone. I spent months trying to talk to her, trying to explain how much she had changed, trying to save our marriage. Every conversation ended the same way. She was too busy, too focused on work, or she simply denied anything had changed. The woman who once dreamed about traveling together no longer wanted to. The woman who once talked about having children suddenly didn't want kids anymore because they would interfere with her career. Eventually, I found myself sitting at home staring at divorce papers. Not because I wanted a divorce, because I couldn't recognize my own marriage anymore. Part of me kept hoping the old version of her was still in there somewhere, but I wasn't sure anymore. Update. The night after a company celebration, she never came home. I called, I texted, nothing. The next morning, she finally walked through the door. She claimed she had stayed at a female coworker's house because she had too much to drink. I told her she could have at least sent me a message. I would have picked her up. Her response? With what? That little car of yours? Then she laughed it off and said she forgot. A little later, she told me she needed to talk. I said I needed to talk too. Then she hit me with something I never expected. She asked for a divorce. According to her, after speaking with her friends, she realized I wasn't fit to be her husband anymore. She said we had different lifestyles, different values, and that she deserved someone of similar worth to herself. Those were her words. At first, I didn't even know how to react. I tried suggesting a separation. I suggested counseling. I suggested therapy, anything. But her mind was already made up, so I calmly told her what I needed to say. I told her I had been considering divorce too. I told her how much she had changed. I told her that I genuinely hoped she found happiness because I knew her worth. But I also knew my own worth. We agreed to separate. I'm moving back to my hometown. An old friend offered me a place to stay until I get back on my feet. There's even a chance I'll get my old hospital position back. Oddly enough, the biggest argument we had wasn't about the marriage. It was about our dog. We got him shortly after moving because she always wanted one. The problem was she barely spent any time with him. I was the one feeding him, walking him, playing with him, and taking care of him every day. Yet when I said I was taking him with me, she suddenly objected. After arguing for nearly half an hour, I finally told her the truth. She didn't have time for him. I did. And he was coming with me. Before I left, I asked her one final question. I asked if she had ever cheated on me. She said no. And honestly, I'm choosing to believe her. Whether it's true or not doesn't change anything now. The marriage is over. The hardest part is realizing that the person who helped me survive the worst period of my life became the same person who made me feel completely alone. I still appreciate everything she did for me all those years ago. I'll never forget that. But some people change, and sometimes they change so much that you no longer recognize them. As I drove away, my dog was sitting happily in the passenger seat, excited for the car ride, and somehow that made me smile. So tell me, am I the a-hole?